And Barbara Bush was truly remarkable. I have to tell a story that happened to me. It was the 1 year anniversary of 9/11. So this was 2002, September 11th, 2002. And you were there, weren't you? Didn't you come up with
to
it?
Kennebunkport?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did one of the most torturous professional moments of my life. We went up there with no notice to do an interview with George H.W. Bush to their house in Kennebunkport. I had to produce the thing with equipment I had never used or seen before.
Yeah.
So I had to learn it all overnight.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And we had to drive up. We took the train to someplace, and then we had to drive up
to Boston.
To Boston. And it was in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was completely foggy, and it was the first time we had ever used GPS. We had never seen, it was Hertz Never Lost, remember?
Yeah, I think.
And we were if it wasn't for that, we would have never shown up because we just had no idea where we were going. I had just flown in from some place around the world or someplace, and we hadn't even talked about it. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I remember driving, and it's like, at the next roundabout, take the fourth turn. I'm like, okay, which one? Was that 3 or was that 5? And so we finally get to Kennebunkport, and it's early in the morning, and we do the interview with George H.W. Bush, and he's just great. And we're walking back towards the house, and Barbara, I don't remember if she was in a golf cart or if it was a car, but I remember she had her foot out, almost like she was going to jump out, jump out of the car and just let it keep rolling. But she had the door kicked open because she had just gone and cut a whole bunch of hydrangeas, and it was early in the morning, so the dew was all on them, remember? Uh-huh. And so she's trying to keep the hydrangeas out of the car and away from her so she doesn't get all wet from the dew. And she just drives by and she says, "Morning, boys." And I just love her. She's just so great.
Weird moment.
It was a weird moment. And I said, she's a tough old bird. And I think it was HW. And he said, "You don't know the half of it. She runs the place." And I said, "I bet she does." And he said, "We just had a problem. We all got our butts kicked. She called, 2 presidents and the Secret Service. And she said, 'Get your butts into the house. I want to talk to you.' And George W. was on the speakerphone, and HW was in the room, and the head of the Secret Service was in the room, and she started wagging her finger because she had told George H.W. when they left the White House, 'No more Secret Service. I've lived with it for too long. I want to be a normal human being. No more Secret Service.' And he's like, 'Honey, we need Secret Service.' 'Not me. I don't want it. I'm not living in a cage anymore.' So she didn't have it. But then when George W. got into office, she needed it, and especially after 9/11. And if you remember right, Saddam Hussein had targeted the Bush, the HWs at Kennebunkport, if I'm not mistaken, and they were trying to kill them. And so they had to have security. And so W is in office, and he's like, "Mom, look, here's the evidence. They're trying to kill you and Dad. You have to have Secret Service protection." And she's like, "Nope. You can put all that fancy stuff in the yard," and he was pointing to it. "You can put all this fancy stuff in the yard. You can do whatever you want, but no one is to shadow me. No one. I want my life back." And so she walked out of the room, and the 2 presidents looked at each other and said, "Okay, son, just do what you have to do, but do not get caught by her doing it." So the poor Secret Service were told, "You can shadow her, but don't ever let her see you. If she catches you, you're on your own." Okay. And so they got away with it for a couple of months. And she went out shopping one day. She took the car in Kennebunkport, and she went out shopping. And she is out, and she's just doing her thing. She's coming back. She has a tail. Okay. She hasn't caught them, but it's a new guy who just started. I think it was the first time that he had gone out. And so just because of his training, part of the deal with the Secret Service is you make the protectorate, make their life easier. And so he just called ahead and said, whatever her code name was, Barbara's on her way back, open the gate. Well, she comes around the corner and the gate is open. And she slams on her brakes and she goes right to the guard gate. And she says, excuse me, why is this gate open? He said, it's just open. She said, stay right there. She turned around, she crossed her arms, and she stood in the driveway waiting for the tail that she knew was on her now to pull up. The guy pulls up, sees her, and slams on the brakes. He's like, and she walks over to the door. You're tailing me. She calls a family council and she reads these two presidents the riot act. This woman was steel. She was steel. She knew who she was. She knew what she wanted. And she ran, I think she ran a great household. But make no mistake, even in a house with two presidents, she was still the boss.